This is the September 18th, 2023 meeting of the Cocoa Beach Land Management Committee. And Kelsey, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Mr. Day?
Present.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Cruz? Here.
Okay. And we have minutes from the July meeting. And anybody have any edits, comments, what have you on the minutes?
Nope.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
A motion to approve?
Can I get a second?
Yes.
Okay, you seconded, Janet? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Kelsey, you're up, I guess.
Yeah, just a couple of things for you all tonight. As you all know, we did the Thousand Islands cleanup over the weekend in the South Thousand Islands. We cleaned up over 250 pieces of trash, including 31 tires, and Bob was there. He was the mastermind behind the whole project, so I'll let
I don't
him
know about that.
give an update.
Brute force and ignorance, not mastermind, but in any case.
What are
Yeah,
the tires out there for? Sorry.
The tires, as I understand it, they're on one of the outer islands. They're due south of the golf course, maybe, half a mile, plus or minus. And years ago, Mosquito Control impounded there's a large island there that they impounded, and on that side they were having erosion problems, so they used tires, tiled them up for erosion control. And it's not only tires, it's tires with hunks of concrete in them, which makes them even more wonderful to deal with. And over time, either through wind or wave or people doing it, the tires have scattered. And there's probably at least a couple hundred of them. We managed to get 30 of them. Others have worked on it in the past, and it's just going to be a continuing project to get rid of them. We had the Finn Expeditions provided kayaks. Kelsey and Walker brought the city boat. We had other folks that went on the islands themselves and picked up a bunch of stuff. Kelsey, just give you an idea of what we found, and so it worked pretty well. And we'll be back doing the North Thousand Islands in the spring. We'll work out of the Lutheran Church on Minuteman and go up there and clean those up and see what we find up there. Hopefully, no more tires up in that part of the world. But
I haven't seen any up there.
because those tires are nasty, but whatever.
Quick question.
Sure.
Did you guys I did it also, but I was up here on the 520.
Yeah.
And we were filling out the citizen science form. Yeah, we're doing that too.
The form,
I
yeah.
thought that was great. I think, was that with UCF?
It's the Coastal Conservation Foundation, if I remember correctly, that has the form that has the check mark for all various sorts of things. It's a heavy cardboard piece.
Yes, and where you were ticking off every
Right,
time you
exactly.
found the different
When you
things.
picked up a can or a piece of paper or what have you. Yeah, we had one of the. We did that as well. It's interesting because KBB is doing it that way. The MRC is also involved, and they were involved in this one,
Right,
publicizing this one as
yeah.
well. And I don't know if they are doing that form or not. But in any case,
Just curious.
and there were a couple beach sites that were done here, and plus Sherry Down and Cape Canaveral. The port was involved, several sites up and down, and got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, all the causeways.
Yeah. That's what I've got anyway.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thanks for that information, Bob. And then the last thing that I wanted to just make you guys aware of is we will be participating in a day in the life of the Indian River Lagoon with the Cocoa Beach High School. We'll send some city staff over to help collect citizen science data for the lagoon in partnership with Orca. They do it all throughout the lagoon. There'll be probably hundreds of sites of students and volunteers collecting data so they can get some good information about the status of the lagoon. And that'll be on October 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of the committee members here feel so inclined and you feel like you want to help with volunteering with water sampling or sediment sampling, anything like that, we'd
Or just
appreciate.
being a warm body and making the kids, keeping track of the kids.
Yeah.
So where is the meeting place and the time again?
What we will be doing is meeting at the high school at the front desk. You're going to need to get a badge and all that sort of stuff with the usual thing, for the volunteers. And I believe it's probably 8 o'clock or maybe a bit earlier.
Yeah. Janice, if you're interested, I'm going to send an email out to all the people
Okay.
and then with the times and the things
Yeah.
you need to know.
But if you're not already fingerprinted and all of that.
No, you don't have to be. They'll take your driver's license and issue because you're actually not going in the building.
I
You'll
see.
be out back on the seawall.
That'd be good to know as well.
And
We don't need like hundreds of volunteers,
Okay.
just a few. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's small. There will be some experts there. Kelsey has done a great job doing water quality. Walker's been doing some of it. Hopefully, John Herron will be there again to do the sediment and a few other things that are going on. So, and again, it's basically keeping track of them, keeping them focused. We do basically the entire school. So we have them at
Yeah,
least the
last
science
year
classes.
they cut it down, but yeah.
Yeah, at least the science classes. So there's at least a couple hundred kids that go through there in shifts of an hour at a shot. So it'll keep you busy. Hopefully we'll have good weather this year. It wasn't bad last year. A couple of years ago it was rather warm, but it's an interesting experience.
Awesome. That's all that I have for staff reports.
Okay, good enough. All right. Let's see, any new business we need to consider this evening? Okay. I guess we're good there. The Beach and Dune Management Plan, I know that we've been working, you folks have been working on it. I know Carol's done quite a few things, and again, where are we at and where do we need to be on that, Kelsey?
So I have some questions. As far as the recommendations, where are we on that? Were there updates made?
Yes, so I had updated it after the July 17th meeting.
Okay.
And then you sent it out.
I sent it out, okay.
Correct. You
As
sent
far
it
as
out
the
to
follow the
everybody.
email.
You
Yeah.
sent it out in advance of the August meeting that then
Which got
didn't
canceled, yeah.
Okay.
come off, right? And I think Mike had said that he was going to take a pass at the executive summary.
Right.
But then,
I don't think he's had a chance to do that
okay,
yet.
because I was going to say,
Okay.
I have not seen that because we were waiting on just those two pieces.
Right.
And that was my question as well, Bob, is there's sort of a point where we were trying to just get to so we could turn it over
Right.
to staff.
Yeah.
So they could.
Massage it as need
Yes,
be, yeah.
absolutely, so it just makes sense because it's going to be
Right,
implemented very much
right,
under their leadership.
Right. I know Joni had a few comments this afternoon. I was kind of not listening to all of it. Is there anything you could give us a quick?
Yeah, Joni was interested in, since she had started working on it, continuing to work on an appendix to show
Regardless of
some
whether she's here or not.
before and after photos. I guess she has a bunch of really great before photos of the beaches and the dunes and wanted to do a comparison appendix, which that was her original plan. So if the
Yeah.
committee's cool with that, we can have Joni put
Yeah.
that together.
Yes, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm very cool with that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that she wants to stay.
That sounds good, and I'm certainly glad Joni's staying involved. Yeah, and so obviously, I think we need to, I need to look at those management recommendations. Could you send them out again,
Yeah.
Kelsey? Because,
So what I'll do is I'll send out Carol's most recent version of those, and I'll send
Okay.
out what I have as the most recent version of the plan, so that everybody has everything. And if you need something printed, you can come
Right.
pick it up from me. That's
Right.
fine. I can print it for you.
Thank you.
Pick it up.
as I recall, I had a few comments for you when we talked in July, I think, when I was remote, so I made a couple comments.
I had incorporated all the comments. I know Janice had mentioned the active shorebird nesting areas, so that's
Yeah.
now in there. Based on some of Kelsey's feedback, we tightened up a few things.
Good. Good.
So I had
Okay.
taken all the previous comments that I had and the things that were shared at that meeting and incorporated them.
Okay. And again, if you could send that out again, Kelsey, I'd greatly appreciate it.
And then I'll check in with Mike and see if he's
Yeah.
still able to work on the executive summary.
Right.
If not, does anybody else want to tackle that? Or do you want me to see what Mike says first?
Yeah.
Why don't we all take a look at it and
Okay.
just, see what, again, it's been a while since I looked at it, and I know when I look at something I did 3 or 4 months ago, I make some edits, let's put it that way, so.
I'll check in with him and let you all know.
Yeah, check in with him, see where he's at, and let's all of us take a look at it, see if there are anything that we see that needs to be edited. That'd be my suggestion. Okay, anything else on beach management while we're here?
Our beaches, yes. I wanted to ask, when you went out to the Thousand Islands, did you see any snowy owls, white owls?
No,
They used to
we've
be
seen.
out there, and I was just curious because it's migration season again, and the birds just seem to just
Yeah.
stop coming.
I've seen barred owls out there, and oh golly, obviously a bunch of other wading birds here, there, and elsewhere, and
Wading birds are pretty obvious.
yeah. But I don't recall ever seeing a snowy owl out there. But it's if somebody else has, maybe. Okay. Anything else while we're here? All right. Well, moving on to the North Thousand Islands Management Plan, Kelsey sent out my latest version of it, and please read through it. Any comments, route them to Kelsey. She'll route them to me. We'll work them in somehow. Where I was, it wasn't the best place to be working on it. So I did get some things done, but there's a lot more yet to go. And just while I'm thinking about it, before I forget, has you had any further communication with DEP about this, or no? No, okay. When we get another nasty letter, we'll deal with it, I
I
guess.
had to call him twice. But
Yeah, yeah, and have gotten no response. That's unfortunately not unusual.
So I did have some questions
Sure.
after reviewing it. What I was confused about, I started in the introduction, I was looking for your green edits. The plan that you're editing, is it not the 2013
Yes.
management plan
Yes.
update?
Yes,
So I don't know what our specific title is, so it's a little confusing to me.
so this should be the 2023 update.
Okay, so perhaps in the introduction,
Yeah.
we say that's what we're
Okay.
doing, because right now it just says submitted a management plan in 1994. This management plan is attached,
Right, okay.
so,
Yeah, there needs to be some language in there that this is a further update of the 2013 and the 1994 plan. So,
Okay.
yeah, okay, good, yes, absolutely.
okay. And I can mess with language too, I just thought it would make sense to just put that right in the third paragraph.
Right.
As required by the terms of the lease.
Right.
The city is to develop, and the original one was 2000, or 1994.
Yeah, we established a trend of not updating every 10 years, so.
Okay. Oh,
It's closer to 20 by the time we were done.
okay.
But any case, we'll work on that. Again, I'll hopefully find some time to do, there's a lot of attachments and other stuff that need to be massaged. And I've looked at a couple other plans, and as we know, some of the goals and objectives of this plan are going to cost a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
And when we were looking at that, I was looking at the other plans. Other people are in the same boat, that they don't necessarily have, those funds aren't necessarily immediately available. So they've added that this goal is unfunded. So
Yes, I saw that.
so
And of course, the highest priority is the removal of the most noxious exotics to
and
get
that's
a baseline.
and
Of
that's
course,
the most
un-
expensive. Yeah. So any case, it's going to be interesting to see, because there's a budget table, a timeline, and all sorts of other stuff that needs to be developed for this plan, and it's going to take some work. So, and consultation with you folks, consultation with the commission, consultation with other staff. Going to be interesting as
It
time
just
goes
seems
on.
the greatest, the management plan update is, as you're doing, you're updating what you know that's transpired between 2013 and 2023.
Yep.
And other than the dredging and very few things, not
A whole
so
lot.
much of it's
And-
status quo, either funding to be determined,
Right.
pending. Is the city eligible for a grant to remove exotics?
We've gotten two.
Yeah.
Has it been two? There's been 2 grants out there.
In the last 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, since I've been here
Right.
from FWC. They're not grants, but they're
And
funding
the
opportunities.
the issue with that is that they do not remove the trees. What happens is they will get a contractor, they will provide a contractor to go in and use herbicide to kill the trees. Now what's left, we have standing dead, and we have people that live across the water from that, and there's been some unhappiness about that, so. And it is, Eels has gone in and contracted people with their funds to remove the trees after they have been treated, and that has, again, rather expensive, because again, you have to barge the equipment out there and get the personnel out there. And generally, they stack and burn them when they're done, which can cause other issues. So again, it's difficult, to say the least. So again, there's, we'll just keep nibbling away at it. And the ones that Kelsey, the projects that Kelsey were involved with were islands that were not across from residential areas. And we did Minuteman Causeway, which again is a lot of that was, since it was high ground, city staff came and chipped the trees when we took them out. So again, it's going to be an interesting process. We'll have the plan in there and saying we would like to do this, but we don't necessarily have the funding at this point.
So would the grant only allow treatment with herbicides? Because you've got an awful lot of mature Australian pines, which is to me the number one priority,
Right.
because then it shades,
Right.
the heavy shade,
It depends on the funding opportunity. This specific FWC money only is for treating. They will
we
not.
can't just chainsaw all down.
We could, but we'll end up paying for it.
Or city staff would have to do it, and our grounds maintenance crew is like 5 people. Not enough to cut down a whole forest.
So it's a challenge, to say the
Because
least.
nothing has a fighting chance when those are there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And again, there's a population out there that thinks they're beautiful trees.
But
Well, there's a lot of them on Samar.
Yeah.
Australian pines, and it go by, it lifts up the road, and then you wonder if it's going into the maritime hammock on the backside of that. I mean,
Well,
they
Maritime
really
Hammock,
are.
when Maritime Hammock was done, there was money available. I don't know whether the city contracted somebody or what. Well, actually, yeah, it was part of the stormwater plan. That's how that
It was part
worked.
of the FCT funding, and then 2 years ago we did FWC contractors.
Right. But again, part of that was that parcel also included that stormwater pond, which was, and part of that project was removing the Australian pines. We had some neighbors that were not pleased about removing all of them, so we did some phased stuff. We took most of them out up by the road first, and then there were some 2 or 3 patches that got taken out over the years, I think, by the city, if I'm not mistaken, because they again, it was half a dozen trees, and they cut them down and mulched them. Any case, so
Well,
I'm working on it. It's going to take a little bit of time, and I'm going to need to track down some information from some other sources. There's a requirement that we do have a management team, quote, of various people from other agencies come and review what's been done, what's proposed. And I'm thinking that we've had some folks from DEP, from Aquatic Preserves, probably some folks from Eels, some other agency folks possibly to take a look at it, and a few residents is one thing they'll also want in on. So again, that's probably one of the later things that needs to happen in this. There's a public hearing that's part of the requirement, so it's involved. But we're getting there, slowly but surely.
Well, I think on a positive note that the updates aren't significant, as significant because all that information is there.
Yeah,
The baseline of information's
it's good.
pretty, full, and there's just, unfortunately, not a lot has been able
Yeah.
to take place.
In my mind, the goals and objectives are still good.
That's what I was looking at,
And it's just that the funding is not there to accomplish that
Right.
as soon as we would like. So, any case.
So, Bob, I have a question.
Sure.
To your knowledge, since you have so much experience with this, how closely does this North Thousand Islands plan align with the South Thousand Islands management plan?
They take a little different tack on it, and largely because Eels has a funding base and staff to do this sort of thing, that they do, but a lot of it is, I know at one point, I think Joni said that, well, let's just, change the name on the South Thousand Island and we'll be good with it. And it is different. They take a little different tack at it. And in reading others that are similar, there are 2 or 3 other plans that actually are in the Google Drive. And if you go look at them, they're different. They're all kind of different on how they treat various parts of the requirement. And we were successful the last time in getting it approved, as you've seen. So I'm kind of considering continuing on that path. Everybody kind of has their own take on how to address the various points that are required. And am I right or am I wrong? So far, at least the last time it worked. So we will see how it goes.
So that's an approved baseline.
Yeah,
for the current
exactly,
plan. Yeah.
exactly. So again, it's largely bringing all the stuff up to date and making excuses why we can't afford to do everything we thought we wanted to do. Any case. All right. Anything else on North Thousand?
I have one more question.
Sure.
When we were looking at doing some management out at the Maritime Hammock, we did a little committee meeting out there that was advertised. Is this group interested in trying to check out the North Thousand Islands at all? Because that might take a little more coordination since.
Yeah,
boats
well,
will be-
exactly, as part of this management team review, we did do a boat tour up there. And I believe that there was an opportunity for the public to join. But obviously, since there was a boat, there was a limited availability, and I don't recall, other than the 2 public members that we'd invited to the committee, I don't believe that anybody else came along. But again, there was a public meeting, I think that night, that we held down at City Hall, and everybody was invited. It was open to everybody, and we may have had maybe half a dozen or a dozen people in the room, as I recall. And most of them were concerned about what we were doing with Australian pines, so.
Okay. If you ever want to do that tour as the committee, just let me know and we'll try to organize that.
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 things I think I mentioned to you before. We need a statement from FNA and Natural Areas Inventory, and there's mosquito control is the other one that basically needs to have a letter from the city. Again, when we get a little further along in getting this put together, that may be when it's time to get those letters out to those agencies.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I'm going to go home and do some more work on it as time goes on, and certainly share with you folks on where we're at. I think again most of it is getting the tables that are in the previous full version, getting those updated, getting a few other things that have happened in the last decade, and making sure everything we meet all that checklist that I put out to y'all a couple months ago. And that has changed some, not a lot, but there's still some things that are going to need to be developed to meet their requirements.
Do you have a target date you would like?
As soon as possible. I would guess it's probably I'm going to hope that by the end of the year, the first couple months of next year, that we'd have something pretty close, I hope. But, there are other things that get in the way, so we'll do what we can.
Do you have any specific items that anyone can help with?
Right at this point, no. I need to sit down with it. The last time I looked at it was the end of August, so and a lot has transpired since then. So I'll have to go back and look and go through the checklist and see if there are things that other people can provide. Okay.
And with the state, we submit the city submits the plan, and then I assume they would review it and
Right.
let you know where there's anything that needs to be revised.
Right. It goes through staff, obviously, with DEP, and what's called the ARC Council, Acquisition and Recreation Council, that reviews these plans, and they will go vote it up or down. I know the last time we did a remote presentation to it. They had a PowerPoint, and I sat on the phone and ran through the PowerPoint with them, and it was approved unanimously, which was fine. So, it was,
So that's a good baseline to start from.
right. So, we will see.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about how much detail we want to go into about the beach use special events,
Okay.
recreation.
This is in the beach management plan you're talking about
Oh,
now.
yeah, sorry. We're not on beach management plan.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I know that the commission, really Laird is going to be reviewing the Class A events. And I thought that it'd be a good idea to weigh in on that in some way. And then to memorialize the numbers of events of beach, because there are probably 2 of them a month in the spring, right? Wouldn't you say? I mean, like every other
Yeah.
weekend. And anyway, since we have the place to put it in here, I thought we would add it. And I think,
Aren't they already mentioned?
no,
The surf contests, all the big public events. There's
Yeah,
a whole
there-
section in there.
There is a section in there about dealing with public events, but it'd be interesting that apparently Laird is working on that?
Laird's gonna work, I think that's where they're headed anyway. But I didn't know if we wanted to put the numbers of people that attend or something like that to show the impact on the beaches of having these huge events and having so many of them. It just seems to me you ought to have like 3, 4 maybe, not just every other weekend. But that's only my conservative opinion. And I just think over time, actually, if the draw gets bigger, the overall impact is going to be about parking. Because in December, they say 20,000, 40,000 surfing Santas are coming. So,
Yeah.
one parking garage isn't solving that problem. So I know it's not our issue to provide parking or anything, but just, if you're going to do it, you need to have that infrastructure in place somewhere to take care of it.
So, Janice, are you suggesting in the plan including something like this event, Surfing Santa happens and it draws this many people to the beaches, or is that what you're suggesting?
Because that is the big events are basically beach events.
Okay.
They're somewhere. I thought it was on page 21, but I lost my place. That's why I've been thumbing through here to.
15
On
is where they
page,
go.
yes, well, 17 has, the different things on here.
Yeah, if Laird is developing some sort of, is it, if it's an ordinance or it's
So I don't know.
guidelines or anything? Do you have any
Laird
clue?
oversees the special events committee,
Yeah.
who oversees the permitting of special events
Yeah.
on the beaches. And when it involves the beach, they typically will invite me. If it doesn't have anything to do with the beach, it doesn't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
concern me. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
Janice?
specifically the beach events, because there's, like 3 big.
Well, the air show.
Well, the air show impacts the beach, but then there's the
Surfing
Kidney
Santas.
Foundation's going to have a beach surfing
Beach
up
and
the
boards.
pier. There's beach and boards at Shepherd Park usually. There's the dog surfing for autism. Those aren't quite as big at
Yeah.
all, but that Surfing Santa has gotten bigger than all.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
gotten
kind of
large.
interesting because it's Christmas Eve, which,
Yeah.
but
Well, again, probably, certainly there are impacts from having, 10,000 people on the beach. But I think probably the larger is the parking and traffic and such like that deals with that. Certainly, Kelsey is apparently involved in those, you will participate in the review of those events, if I'm not mistaken, and offer comments on what, things that need to be, fencing off the dunes, those sorts of things that need to happen. And that, I think, is probably where our beach management plan comes in, is more, what happens directly on the beach, whereas the parking, the traffic, the other stuff is a little bit out of what we're dealing with here, at least in my opinion.
And what I can tell you is in those discussions, they do ask, like, what's your parking plan? What's your sanitation
Sure.
plan? Where are these people going to park their cars? So
Sure.
that is part of the plan. Like the air show, they usually partner with one of the hotels, the Hilton or something, to
Right.
provide additional parking. But outside of that,
Yeah. I think the last Surfing Santas, didn't they have them parking out here at the high school, and they had a shuttle bus that ran back and forth? I think at least one of those events
Yeah,
they've had.
they've done that also on the vacant 520 property, but that's not going to be vacant
Yeah, any case,
going forward. But I just thought if there's anything to be said about it, now's the time
right.
to address it while that subject is already on the table.
I can't recall exactly the language that's in there, but I think probably there should be some language about that there is an large events committee that considers these things, and in the event of beach events that there are some considerations that need to be addressed, i.e. dune protection, other, basically safety on the beach, those sorts of things.
And maybe what I'm hearing is that the suggestion is partially like the beach and then partially parking. So maybe part of the suggestions in the section Carol's working on, the recommendations, maybe it is to find ways to improve access to beach parking.
Yeah.
Left open for interpretation, whether that's finding better ways for parking for events, building new parking areas, things like that. We can't make that decision for where that's going to be right now.
Exactly. That's a recommendation. It's not necessarily a hard and fast requirement.
But I understand that parking, they find it where they find it, and it's shifted around a little bit over the years. But I just think if we have anything to say about it, the beach activity at all, it should be brought up now. And I'm just kind of curious, at Cocoa Beach, I haven't been to the beach along there to see what the riptide's done to our dunes, but I know south of Pineda, it's been really, really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I know south, not second light at Patrick, but second light down there, the fence in front of one of the townhouse condo and their dune is gone. So the condo right there at the end of Pineda?
Yeah.
That lost all their beach. Well, going along that edge down to Hightower, I would say, the dune is pretty badly impacted, and all the railroad vines are hanging out over the beach edge. And all the sand at Monaco, which was the condo south of there, put on the beach. And when did they do that after the last hurricane? They put about $80,000 worth of sand in front of their condo, and that's all gone.
Right. But our situation, as I recall, the last few storms have not affected the Cocoa Beach all that much.
Interesting. I was kind of curious why we got a break.
Any case. Yeah, but again, I think Kelsey's recommendations are pretty good, that we need to, again, look at the impacts to the beach in the beach management plan. There needs to be possibly some language in there that refers to the events and the requirements that they abide by, the protection of the beach for longer term.
Well, I wasn't sure which I was hearing. It sounds like the real issue from what you're talking about is when we've got this volume of people, the events are so successful, and they're not always at the same place. So it's the permitting process and providing a parking plan, and maybe the city working with business owners that have large parking lots, because sometimes it does seem a little bit haphazard whether an event has an adequate parking plan, and so you strengthen that permitting, that parking plan that has to be submitted to the city to get that permit, and maybe it's engaging some other creative ways where, oh, you could work with Cocoa Beach High School, you can work with the trolleys, the ones like the art show, when they've got it together and they'll have you parking at the, was it Royal Tower?
Yeah,
Over
Cape
there,
Royal.
Cape Royal, and have the shuttle service and things
Yeah.
like that. Things that can mitigate that haphazard parking at certain areas. So maybe it's coming up with packages of solutions that can fit the different events. Because at least the Surfing Santas, because it's right at the end of Minuteman, has the parking garage. And then you have other parking that you could probably come into play.
Schools,
Have
here.
you ever been?
Yes.
Oh, well, do you walk there or ride bike or something to get there? Because I'll tell you.
We actually
you have
parked.
to park.
We parked along a neighborhood, but you could
Like
see if you didn't
it's-
get there early.
Yeah.
Yes, really early. There's-
But the same thing is for things at Lori Wilson. It spills over, you've got the Hilton, you've got then across the street at that vacant lot. But maybe
Right.
it's just taking a look at what are some parking plan options, because they're gonna come with a cost to the sponsor of the event to be done well.
Right.
And so maybe it's looking at, I think some of these event
Yeah.
sponsors don't even know where there may be opportunities to park working with businesses. So maybe the recommendation is to review and revise the special event permitting process to ensure,
Right.
I don't know, it doesn't seem to be so much a beach, I
Yeah,
agree.
This
It's-
seems to kind of fall outside of beach management. I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
as far as beach management, if the idea behind the parking was to improve or increase access to the beach, that might be an acceptable recommendation. But this detailed thing is more into like public safety,
Right.
our police department and
Right.
Traffic management, things like that.
way beyond.
No, I'm primarily interested in the impacts on the beach. And,
Well, again, that's, as Kelsey's mentioned, that's part of their planning thing, that they were going to require, again, dune protection, access points that are, so people aren't tromping all over the place, and making sure that
Nest marking.
that litter is picked up, and da-da-da-da-da, all those things that go with an event,
Which the plan is doing in the recommendations,
hopefully.
making sure to better and continue with the identification
Right.
for access points, adequate trash cans, looking at pickup times so it's not overflowing during special events. But then the rest of it goes back to permitting.
Right.
Additional trash receptacles, adequate personnel to pick them up on a timely basis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the stuff that directly impacts the beaches
Yeah.
are those things that we need to look at.
So Janice, to your point, is a lot of the beach management, the recommendations that talk about the protection are to protect them against everyday use as well as bigger crowds.
Yeah.
And then you marry that with the permitting process to make sure those things are in place
Yeah.
before the event sponsors get their permits.
And I think somewhere in the language it does mention that there is a permitting process for the events, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
in there. So again, that needs to be, it may need to be expanded a little bit, but again, I think that should cover it, for
Okay,
at
so
least as
back-
far as the beach is concerned.
back to where I started with that, had to do with the impacts. You know, if we have so many Class A events, what are the impacts on the beach? And especially with the updated dune, the bird nesting thing, I just think that there should be nowhere do we kind of mention it, like coordinating this time of the year. It's like, really be careful about that over there. Those birds are in the area, so just so people are mindful.
Well, again, that kind of goes back to the committee, the special events committee that looks at those things. That needs to be on their list of things to look at. Let's put it that way.
So how do we get it on there?
Well,
Is that something we do, or you're going to bring up at the
That's
meeting?
something that we do during the permitting process,
Right.
is sensitive wildlife. So, I mean, the one that's there almost all the time is sea turtles. They're required to coordinate with our FWC licensed surveyor every day of the event, the day before, whenever they're setting up, before they take anything down, before they have people come on the beach. They have to coordinate with that individual.
And again, the same thing could apply for the nesting shorebirds, all that.
That same contractor does shorebird nesting surveys for the Army Corps. So if those are there, he's familiar with that process and what that looks like. And yes.
Okay, so since.
I'm not going to say it's perfect, but
Yeah.
it's got quite a bit of, there is an awareness that these things need to be reviewed.
And there may, to your point, Jess, that recent study showing the number of near-shore boat strikes on sea turtles.
Yeah, I saw
That might inform the races
Mhm.
going forward. I think you had brought that up before.
I didn't see that. And
Yes, they-
Where was it?
It was an article in the newspaper 2-3 days ago, within the
Yeah,
past
yeah,
week.
And it's got
Florida
some other
Today.
press, yes.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe, so I guess I missed that article. However, it just seems that that is at the very beginning, that race, and I know we discussed this last time. And, the only thing that, Carol, you and I had discussed, and, the whales are having a really difficult time now on the eastern seaboard, especially around New Jersey. And the right whales do have this migratory path here. And however, they're visible offshore. Do they come close to shore with their calves in January?
There was one in Sebastian Inlet a few years ago.
Yeah.
They are visible, MRC has a whale watch per lady that keeps track of that, and they do have watchers, that,
Yeah.
especially folks that live in the upper floors of condos or.
Correct.
Right.
And they can see them, they're within a mile of the shore at times, so.
Okay, so if they're within a mile, the boat races, so what we
Right.
had touched on was,
Right.
or at least was kind of suggesting that it be moved further to earlier in the spring, not at the cusp, because turtle nesting's already started in Fort Lauderdale by the time we say it's starting
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's something that I agree needs to be considered, and I think with the article that Carol mentioned, that I don't recall that they were calling for any specific action, that they were
Not to my knowledge.
that they were noticing that it was a potential problem, and I'd be interesting to see how U.S. Fish and Wildlife and others respond to that, because they do have the boat race does have to coordinate with them on protecting turtles. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out over
In the
over
permitting
this.
process.
Yeah.
For it, yeah.
See, I thought that race came here from the Keys. I think they have the race in the Keys,
don't know.
like in.
I think it's an entire circuit.
It is.
Right, it is.
The
but I'm
Keys
just saying,
has
like,
their own.
They go like in January, February, and then they come up here. When are they here in April? Do you remember?
April,
recall
May,
when they
somewhere
were here
in there.
this past year?
Yeah, it was-
I thought it was around April,
Sometime
May,
around there.
early.
Any case.
Yeah. So in any event, that's another thing to like keep our eye on for
Right.
that.
But again, that's something that the event committee would not necessarily. They would be the rulers of whether you cannot hold this because of turtles or whatever, or white whales. But and as I recall, the right whale season, the turtle season kind of overlap. The right whales are passing through a little bit earlier than the turtles are around, if I recall correctly.
The right whales, I think their primary migration through this area is like November, December, January. It tapers
Yeah.
off, and then the turtles arrive in March.
March, April,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So actually, yes, they take up between two events the whole year, right?
So any case, that's one thing that, as I'm sure as time goes on, that there will be questions about the scheduling of the boat race. So, and
As far as the city's permitting process, kind of like Bob alluded to, if U.S. Fish and Wildlife and FWC says the event is permitted and all the correct protections are taken, then that's guidance that the
Right.
city accepts.
yeah, that's essentially what the city can do. If they go outside those, they may have other problems.
Well,
Okay.
It's a good thing that we can rely on them because, they've got the power.
Okay.
And one other thing, we haven't discussed this, but I'll bring it up about the lifeguard situation on the beach. I think
Okay.
the county has agreed to pay for the lifeguards
Mhm.
for this year, so, right? You've heard, if you're not involved in that in any
It's
way.
all fire
Okay.
department.
So, basically, they're trying to get the city to pay instead of the county. You know, that our conversation has been going on. And our district commissioner, District 2 County Commissioner, is the no vote to, you know, for the county to pay for the lifeguards. And, you know, I just think that maybe just an idea in our heads to carry around with us for conversation or something, but I believe that since, you know, many years ago, we didn't have lifeguards. I think they're probably a good thing, you know, a lot more people coming with children and so forth, or people that are unfamiliar or don't swim and get caught in the riptide. The commission's talked about that, but the other point is, I think that service should be seamless. I don't think it's beneficial to come down the coast here and have, like, City of Cape Canaveral, they're going to run a program. Then Avon by the Sea, the county will have their little program. Then Cocoa Beach will pay for some, and unless they just want the money from Cocoa Beach, and they'll run a seamless service by the county.
More recently in the news, as you know, that the county commission refused, did not fund several of the arts and special events that they often fund through TDC, and they said they were going to take that money and put it towards lifeguards. Now, what that means, I agree that 6 months ago there was talk that they were going to not pay for lifeguards within Cocoa Beach and I guess several other municipalities as well. Now, does that mean that now they are changing their mind, that since they're taking this funding away from the arts, since they are going to
I
put
don't
it
think
into
we have the
lifeguards?
facts,
I
because
don't
it's
think
my
we do.
understanding
Yeah.
that position has not changed. The money that they're removing from the arts is helping to fund 2 additional lifeguard stations at
In
some
other
of the
portions.
other beaches.
Okay.
But that the municipalities, with Cocoa
Will
Beach
still be
being the single
liable.
largest, will be liable for a huge portion of their lifeguards
Okay.
within city limits.
I think we need, again, I think
We
we
need
need
the
more-
facts.
We need more information before we go further on this, in any case.
Well, I just feel that the TDC markets Cocoa Beach, and we take the impact, and I think they should pay for the lifeguards. And see, in March, the attorney's opinion was that the TDC couldn't pay. Now the opinion is that the TDC can pay. The TDT taxes can pay for lifeguards. So, I mean, as far as the TDT, you know, coming up with the funds, they've had historical income. 37% of their money comes from Cocoa Beach, and I just heartily support everybody saying TDT should pay for the lifeguards. They bring the tourists here, and those numbers greater than would come otherwise, and I think they do need the service, and I just think that it's kind of a quid pro quo.
Yeah. Well, don't disagree.
All right, so.
Right, but and I'm sure that argument was made by our city officials at county commission
Well, I
meetings.
didn't see any of them at the county commission meeting.
Well, this has
on
been
that, so-
going on for,
At the last meeting, they had another vote on it,
Several
so.
months.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay, anything else while we're here today? I see I think we're lacking in public comment right at the moment. It's that committee members' analysis. The one thing I will say is Kelsey's mentioned that A Day in the Life is coming up on the 5th of October. And the annual Sea-Bean Symposium, well,
Yeah.
that goes back and forth between here and Texas, will be at the library on the 20th and 21st of October. And those are the...
the Cocoa Beach Library.
Cocoa
right,
Beach
okay.
Library, correct. And it's an interesting thing, because it's
Yeah.
not just sea beans, it's all sorts of other stuff that drifts around in the ocean that comes up on our shores. It's an interesting session. Anything else while we're here this evening? Kelsey, anything we need to cover, or are we good? Okay. Okay, I think we,
What-
go ahead.
I just want to confirm that the next meeting is October 9th. I believe that's Columbus Day, but the city doesn't.
Right, that's one of those northern holidays.
Second Tuesday.
Right, so
I
that,
don't think that's not a recognized city holiday.
right,
Okay.
understand.
Oh, that's true, okay.
That's true. Yeah, it's not,
City
not,
offices are open.
yeah.
So the date is October 12th?
October 9th is the second Tuesday, and the city is open that day.
Right.
Okay,
It's Indigenous Peoples' Day for other places.
for other places.
All right, well, thank you, folks. We will go forth
Yeah.
and work some more on this wonderful management plan. And Cheryl, thank you for all your efforts, and Janice as well. And we will sally forth.
The next few days, I'll